Well, we are officially in a WrestleMania haze of sorts. We are still on the heels of an amazing WrestleMania Night 1 and Night 2. Today, we recap all that happened in Night 2 as part of Women's Wrestling Talk. This is kind of the WWT live edition of a post show coming up next.
What's up, guys? This is Zoe Stark. You're listening to Women's Wrestling Talk.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling network on the planet.
What's going on, good people? I am the Professor Gerard Bonner, and this is Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling network on the planet. And you are locked into the WrestleMania Night 2 post show, the biggest weekend on the pro wrestling calendar. We've already covered NXT Stand and Deliver. We've already covered Night 1. Now it's time to get into Night 2. I can't wait to hang out with you guys in the chat, wherever in the world you are. So fire it up. There will be plenty to talk about, but I am not alone. I am joined by my good UK brother. It's not Tuesday, folks. It's Monday. You'll get that reference at some point. My good brother, the progenitor of all things Black Wrestling Alliance. It is A Dazzle. What's up, good brother?
Yo. Or should I say, whoa?
Exactly. What in the world, man? So before we dive into all of the action, man, how are you feeling after this wild WrestleMania week?
The week has been long. It's been tiring. Because life still has to happen.
Yes.
In between the time of watching everything and trying to stay awake.
Yes.
I didn't do very well on either nights, if I'm honest. But you know, we're here. And then we've still got Raw to come as well. So
we sure do.
You can see the bags. You can see the bags. Wow.
It is a brand new era. There's no doubt about that. And that was made very, very clear. We'll probably talk tomorrow. You guys can check us out on Wrestle Extra tomorrow when we talk about 2/3 of the Real House of Black actually meeting in person, which is all kinds of fun because I split my time between Philly and Atlanta. Probably not a good idea. It probably should have all been in Philly. But be that as it may, we are not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Night 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of run through the card as it happened, share our thoughts, and obviously you guys in the chat and the comment section can do the same. Got a shout out, of course, TK Trinidad, the head of all things Women's Wrestling Talk. Finally got to meet her face-to-face this weekend, which was a lot of fun. Shout out to Honey, who will be joining us as well, fresh off of her trip at WrestleMania. So I cannot wait to hear her take as she was in the building when all of these things happen. So yes, Night 2, a massive night in all things pro wrestling. And one thing I'll probably start off by saying is it seems as though for the last few years, people have felt like Night 1 outpaced Night 2. Do you feel that way with this year's WrestleMania right off the gate? Do you feel like Night 2 outpaced Night 1, or did Night 1 continue in its tradition and outpacing Night 2?
In overall, Night 2 just felt more enjoyable. Not in the sense that every single match was better than Night 1 and all that kind of stuff. I think it was more to do with maybe the atmosphere, obviously the build-up of Night 1. Obviously the main event of Night 1 had, you know, had its effect on Night 2. So it was almost like, I know you said this before in the build to WrestleMania, it's almost like, you know, it was evident, should I say, that you know, there was no real focus on building Night 2 necessarily, or the main event of Night 2. It was all focused on Night 1. So maybe in a way that may have kind of had gave us a little bit more expectation for Night 1. And with it being Night 1, you kind of just, you know, all your expectations on this night, and you know, I mean, it's the first one that comes up, so and all of that. But then I think night 2, I think the atmosphere was just a little bit better as well in terms of the crowd reactions and stuff like that, which helped it along as well. And I can imagine probably small details in the sense of, they do night 1, they notice a few little niggles, and then probably do it better on night 2. So there's so many factors that kind of, contribute to night 2 being better overall. But yeah, it was, and then we got to the main event, but we'll get to there, but it was just madness.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of factors. Having been in Philly last week, I can tell you that Philly Northeast cold hits differently. And what I don't think most people understood is this event was outdoors. It was already a cold week in Philly. It was cold and rainy most of the week. And it was literally 50 degrees on Saturday night, and it did nothing but get colder with no sun. So
we did,
to fully cheer and express yourself when you're bundled up and freezing. Last night was a lot warmer. In terms of 10 degrees. So when you start 60 degrees versus 50 degrees, that's a massive difference to start the night, And so you had all those things, which I think were factors that, if you, and I think WWE did a really good job of trying to tell that particular story by showing the temperature and showing the weather. And then on occasion, when you would see the commentators, each time you saw them, they were more bundled up on night 1 than the night before, to showcase how cold it really was. But we started things off with God Bless America from the War and the Treaty, the War and the Treaty, we've seen them before on SmackDown and a few other spaces, a really great country group that has a great relationship with WWE. Now, I'll tell you one thing I noticed off the bat, which we probably started noticing on night 1, but one of the traditions of WrestleMania was to sing not necessarily the national anthem, but America the Beautiful. This is the first year in WrestleMania history that America the Beautiful was not sung. And I don't know if people paid attention to that, but America the Beautiful was one of the staples that Vince McMahon put into WrestleMania because he, in his own words, liked America the Beautiful better than the national anthem. So here again, another one, and this is a theme we really saw all throughout WrestleMania, the establishing of the new era, the new guard, without ever saying the name of the old guard, and taking down some of the pillars that existed from that, which included America the Beautiful not being sung this year. That was one thing. I really want to get your thoughts on this one, because the next thing we saw might have been one of the biggest moments of all of WrestleMania weekend. And that was Stephanie McMahon coming to the ring and welcoming everyone to WrestleMania. Tell me what you thought about this particular moment in time with Stephanie McMahon, her first time being in a WWE ring since, her leaving the company, coming back, leaving again. Big weekend for Stephanie McMahon. What are your thoughts?
For me, it was a good thing. I know there's all sorts of controversy, and not just with Vince and obviously being her father and all the rest of it. Her name's been mentioned in some of this scandal in some ways and stuff like that. But for me, I think the positive of it as well, Stephanie has had such a good influence on WWE in general over the time that she's, kind of been in charge of all the brand stuff and, working with the women's division and, kind of cultivating and help cultivate the women's evolution a few years back and things like that. So it's great. It was nice to see her on a personal note as well. It's also kind of for me killing rumors of what's ever happening with her and her husband Triple H and all this kind of thing. I did see that even on the notes for night 2, that segment was still set for Triple H. So I think it may have been a surprise for quite a few people working within WWE, as well as obviously the fans in attendance. So it went down well. It went down very well. She seemed very comfortable, didn't seem nervous at all. So for me, it can only be a positive. I saw it as a great thing. You know, and I'm happy to see her back again, to be honest.
Absolutely. You know, we saw her for the first time this weekend at the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, which was a big deal for sure. Her being mentioned by name by Paul Heyman and the like. But seeing her inside of the ring at WrestleMania was very significant. And again, in a spot that historically Vince McMahon had been in welcoming people to WrestleMania. Triple H did it night one. She did it in night two. And then he alluded kind of at the press conference how great it was to have her back and that this is home for her. And so I wonder if, you know, and this is obviously a discussion for another day, if this means that she is back in some sort of corporate position or if she is just visibly back with the company. Obviously, we'll probably find out as time goes on. But this, I don't know, this was an emotional moment for me. And I don't know what made it emotional. I think it was the idea that you can always come home and to think, you know, Stephanie McMahon very intentionally got out of the way when Vince McMahon came back to the company. And I think it was a major move for someone who loves WWE so much to say, I'm not willing to work with you at this particular point. And so for her to now find it safe enough to return, I think speaks volumes. And so to everything that you said, what a massive move this is for the women's division, women's representation. And so many people talk about how nice of a person Stephanie McMahon is.
Everyone does.
And so
everyone does.
Yeah, so having her back in the fold is a huge moment. And I just can't wait to see what comes from this. Cool Gamer, welcome aboard. Good to have you here. You guys feel free to share this broadcast as I'm sure many of you are having conversations like all of the social spaces are about all that happened at WrestleMania. So now let's get into the opening match, which was for the World Heavyweight Championship. Seth freaking Rollins defending against Drew McIntyre. We had quite the entrance from both of these guys. Drew McIntyre having the whole bagpipe situation happening, and then this incredible group welcoming him. Meanwhile, Seth Rollins, I mean, came out in, I couldn't tell if we were at Mardi Gras, if this was in New Orleans or what. Like, this was wild. Before we get into the action, talk about the entrances of both Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins and them kicking off night two.
You know, with Drew, you know, it's almost to be expected now of, you know, this kind of Braveheart-esque entrance from the Scottish Warrior. Of course, you know, you got the guys in the kilts and with the swords and all the rest of it. So it made a lot of sense. Seth, I mean, it made sense too, but at the same time, it was like, what is going on here? Like, I was trying to make actual sense. The flamboyancy, of course, that's the part that made sense. You know, we know he's styled by the designer King Troy. He does a lot of his stuff and all the rest of it. I need to shout out him as well. He does amazing work. Obviously, he also styles Becky Lynch. I think he done some stuff with the New Day, Charlotte Flair, and a couple others in between as well. But yeah, this whole band, I think the band are based in Philly as well. I can't remember the name of the band and stuff. But you know, again, there were quite a few entrances where, you know, Philly had their, you know, made a contribution basically. You know, some of the other people that were a part of entrances were all local to the stadium and to Philly. So all of that was brilliant. He looked amazing. I just love everything that Seth wears. However crazy it is, I absolutely love it. But yeah, it was just madness and madness for a reason, because Seth is just mad. So it just made sense to me as much as I couldn't make sense of it, if that makes sense.
Yes. That makes total sense. And you know, again, WrestleMania, one of the things that we live for are these grandiose, massive entrances. And for a world title match, it certainly made sense for that to happen. This match just really did an awful lot. I mean, from the opening Claymore within the first 2 seconds of the match, this thing went back and forth and back and forth. before, of course, Drew McIntyre walked away as the winner and the new world heavyweight champion. So before we talk about anything after this moment, talk about this match. And if things went kind of the way you figured, what were your thoughts on this match between Drew and Seth?
We saw on Wednesday on X, we saw the debut of WWE Speed.
Yes.
This felt like the second episode of WWE Speed.
Yes.
Wow. It was just like nonstop the whole way through. It was just like it was just finisher after finisher after finisher. You know, when Drew hit that first Claymore, I'm sure everyone else went back to when Sheamus hit Daniel Bryan with or Bryan Danielson then with the what's his kick again?
With that pump kick.
The pump kick. I forget what it's called. You know,
the bro kick. That's
the
what
bro
it is.
kick. That's the one.
Yes.
And obviously won the match within seconds. And I thought it was going to be a very similar thing that would have surprised everyone. But the match was amazing. I think you know, however short it was, the speed of it, everything was great with CM Punk and commentary. You know, that as well, adding to, you know, both guys kind of losing, you know, being distracted by Punk, especially Drew. And obviously it led into what happened afterwards.
Absolutely. A huge night and a huge moment for Drew McIntyre, who, you know, I mean, he put in a lot of work, had to pull out a lot of claymores. And it's scary to think that after all Seth Rollins went through in night one, that he was able to still pull out this incredible match in night two. Like, you know, you really got to see kind of the culmination of all of the punishment that his body has gone through in defending this title since May. It was really, really crazy to see. But again, this swell of momentum that Drew McIntyre has been on, you know, from really Royal Rumble all the way up through Elimination Chamber, winning that, you know, he has just been on a roll. And so for him to finally win the World Championship in front of 72,000 people, he was super emotional in the ring, presented the belt there to his wife, and then he got in the face of CM Punk. And
I was gonna say I've already seen commentary of someone kind of watching it and commentating behind it and all the rest of it. And that part where we got into the face of CM Punk, and the person was like, all you had to do was leave.
That's it. That's it. I mean, you could have put the belt in his face and walked away. But he had his say. He even had this moment where he told the cameraman to zoom in because he wanted to frame this picture on his wall. And he talked all of this junk. And I have to admit, with the injury of CM Punk, I in no way expected CM Punk to get physical. No. In no way at all. No. So to see CM Punk literally take his brace off and then turn around and put the boots to Drew McIntyre was just out of this world. It almost made me wonder, did we get swerved here with this injury? Because he was doing an awful lot. I mean, to pull it off and then to use it, you know, as a weapon was crazy. And then he puts the boots to Drew McIntyre. And then just as that happened, entering the group chat, it's Honey. Wrestling with Honey, how are you?
Just like Damian Priest.
Exactly. Shout out to the Latinos from the Bronx. That's just how we do.
Exactly.
Listen.
I apologize for my voice. I sound crazy. I left my earbuds in the car. I just ran right in here, literally fresh out the car, fresh off the train station. I'm home. Guys.
So for those who don't know, Honey was with us in Philly, and she got the full treatment, got to be a part of all of the big events happening at WrestleMania weekend, including Oh my Lord, Ring of Honor and NXT and WrestleMania nights 1 and 2. And so, yeah, night 2 I know was nuts for you. Before we get into what happened after this moment, talk about what you felt when you saw Punk literally get physical with Drew.
I was just like, let's go. Let's go. I know he's coming back real soon. So, and it's a lot sooner than we think.
Yeah, clearly.
I was very happy about it. It was just moment after moment after moment. Drew and Seth put on a banger match for being kind of a quick match, but it was like roll up after pin and then a 2 count and then it was just like constant on edge. It was just absolutely awesome. But when CM Punk took that arm brace off, all hell broke loose in that stadium. And I was just like, here we go. And all I could think of was like, if this is happening tonight, what the hell else is going to happen after this? So shout outs to CM Punk. I'm so happy to see him physical again. It was definitely one for the books. And then Drew put on an awesome performance, and he was just, selling it like the heel that he is. Seth looked great. The entrances were sickening, like absolutely sickening. Like it was like if Liberace had a carnival, Seth had he looked like the rainmaker, like he was gonna bring it. Like I was just epic, to say the least. Epic. I like every adjective in the book. I'm telling you.
That is absolutely amazing. And so as Punk is putting the beat down on Drew McIntyre, which none of us saw coming, then someone else entered the group chat. De La is here. How are you, sir?
Good. How are y'all today?
Welcome aboard for the night 2 post show, man. Tell us what you thought of Punk. I don't know if I should call it a surprise return or what, but Punk was very physical last night. What did you think of this moment?
Yeah, Punk kind of told us, like, in the aerial interview, I think it got lost in everything that he said, but he was like, they're protecting me from myself. And he's like, this didn't feel like the other triceps injury. And he's basically like, oh, this is what it's like to have protocol and procedure. So he's like, I'm feeling really good. And if you read between the lines, it's like, he ain't going to be out quite as long as we thought. So I'd say this is probably a SummerSlam match. And that means you probably get Punk back around Money in the Bank. Somewhere in June, maybe the Saudi show at the end of May is when you probably see like Punk fully get physical. Because he took the brace off and he clocked Drew with his left hand, which I think is something of note. Because it's like, all right, he's not fully there to throw a punch with his right, brace or not, but he's a lot closer than we think. So might be a summer of Punk.
And to do it in that nice suit. My God.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah.
Man said cross-legged in that suit. That was impressive.
That wasn't CM Punk in that suit. That was Phil. That was Phil.
Right. And it was pretty amazing to see. And so, yeah, it was crazy. And after all of this beatdown that CM Punk did, which I think shocked us all, then it happened. The music hit. Now, I have to tell you what's really funny. In one of the group chats that I had, someone literally asked about 5 minutes before this happened, whatever happened to the guy with the Money in the Bank briefcase? and his literal words were, I'm sure that the front office is regretting putting this on him. And I literally told him, just keep watching. And boom, here we go. Damian Priest finally comes out, puts the boots there to Drew McIntyre, cashes in, and becomes the brand new world heavyweight champion. I got to ask the question, guys. What were your thoughts on this cash in on this night?
Honey, go for it. Honey, just go on.
Yeah, because you were there, honey. What did it feel like in the building, man? Like that's the real question.
I appreciate it. You know what's funny? I don't know how I got through filming a lot of content the way I did, because I should have been throwing my damn phone over the rafters, especially when his music hit. I knew it would, like, everybody had been feeling this coming, first of all. And I literally pressed record like a couple of moments, like right when CM Punk was just finishing beating the heck out of Drew. The everything changed purple, and my voice was already gone. I lost it. I'm screaming, "Do it for the Bronx! Do it for the Bronx! Do it for Puerto Rico! Let's go! Let's go Puerto Rico!" And then it's just, and it was successful. And I think just that moment alone let you know what the night was all about. That Triple H was giving us what we want, literally on a silver platter. And shout outs to Damian Priest for making history, for being the first Puerto Rican champion in 50 years, since Pedro Morales, since the 70s. Like, it gets no bigger than that for him. And I think he so deserved it, because he's worked really hard. We understand that window was coming really, really close, just a little bit. That window was kind of closing. But man, did they swing for the fences on this one. And I was so elated being a proud Latina woman from the Bronx, man. Like, I felt all that in my soul. I felt all of that in my soul. And the funniest part is that he would do exactly what us Latinos do. We come, we crash the party, we take over, and we dip. That's it. Like, cook up the rice and beans. We got the freestyle 80s music. We'll jam with you. And then, boom, we're done. Bye. Like, we're all about a good time. And damn it was a damn good time for them. Really good.
So
I enjoyed it.
Hey, Dazzle, I was going to ask you this question, and I still think I will. And then I'll let Honey piggyback off of this. Generally, when we talk about representation, we talk about it from seeing, obviously you have a strong lean on what's happening in the space of Black wrestling. But what did you feel like in terms of representation in this moment for Damian Priest?
Good question. You know what? I think I just echo everything that Honey was saying about, him being the first Puerto Rican champion in 50 years. That's a very long time. And think them, different Puerto Ricans that have been in the business, that have been in WWE and all the rest of it, and whether you saw them as champions or not, it's kind of like, all right, so when is it our time? And sometimes I think to myself, as we talk about like Black wrestlers not getting their chance and us waiting, I'm thinking, when we get our chance, when Kofi became champion, when Biggie and Bobby Lashley became champion, the Puerto Ricans are thinking, so we're not here, no? So it's like, it makes sense. Like, representation isn't just one set of people. There's a whole load of people that need to be represented. And the beauty of the Judgment Day in itself as well is that there's representation on so many levels in that group alone. And I think with WrestleMania in general, the matches that we'll put on, I'm sure we'll get into, all the other matches and stuff like that. But there was so much representation that for me, it never really felt as though it was tick box type of booking either. It was just, if you're good, you're good. We like this person, we trust this person, we're gonna put them out there, and that's it. Nothing more to it. So for Damian Priest to get, his to finally get the title is phenomenal. And I must say this, because I need to say this. I'm going to say this at every opportunity that I get. I predicted this about 2 months ago. I said, and I've said it on our show so many times. The perfect thing for them to do was to have Priest cash in at WrestleMania, and it's funny because up until or maybe just after War Games, it kind of felt as though the belief that Damian Priest was a champion was kind of dying down a little bit. They kind of they kind of left him. It's almost like they weren't really thinking about him and focused on everything else that was going on. And I've heard on other chats that, while some people were still expecting it to happen, they were feeling the same way, as though he's not quite championship material and maybe need to wait another couple of weeks or whatever it is. But sometimes you have to just give the person the ball and let them run, regardless of what status that they're at that time. I think for me, this will be the making of him. Whereas, yes, there was a lot of things that he did before, and the War Games thing was great, and him and Drew kind of had their thing and all of that. But I think now we're going to really see what Damian Priest can do.
Mm-hmm. Dayla, let me ask you this question. We saw on night one that Judgment Day lost the tag team titles, though Mommy retained the women's title, and Dominic lost his particular match as well. With Damian Priest winning the world title, what do you see happening for Judgment Day? And I'll ask this question of you as well. Are they stronger now post WrestleMania than when they came into WrestleMania?
Yeah, they're definitely stronger post Mania, because look at the photo. You hold Raw's top 2 titles. Like, this most recent undisputed tag team title run was kind of lackluster, and they were just treading water at best. And then Dom has the whole thing with Ray, and now Dom has beef with Andrade because they're both on Raw. Andrade hit the turn. You can do whatever with Finn and JD if they're going to play the muscle for Priest. They're in a better spot. And it's perfect. Now, the real question is, how long does Priest hold this belt?
That's an interesting question. And I'm of the mindset that we're in, as we've been talking about this new era and things of this nature. I think we get the opportunity to build Priest as a champion. I think, it's a popular thing for people to ask, and I'm sure they will ask by the time we get to the end of this, how long will these title runs happen? I think it's very hard to determine that from day one. I think in our minds, we go, it'll be great to see so-and-so as a champion, or this one as a champion, or that one as a champion. But you really don't know until they get into these runs what this looks like. And if we all can get used to seeing them as a champion. One thing that, and I don't want to skip too far to the end, but I think some people would have imagined that the person that would end a 1,300-day reign is someone who has been a world champion of a major company in recent memory. That didn't happen this time, So I think it'll be interesting to see, because a lot of new champions were crowned during WrestleMania, how things will be built for them in the next few months to really get a chance to see how their championship reign will look. Let me say hi to Barry Monkey in the chat, who enjoyed this world title match. Good day to Matt as well. He says, when I saw that picture at first, I thought it was Dragunov. Never realized what similar builds they have. That's funny. All right. So that's a great look at the world title match again, which was a massive moment. The next match featured, yes, they're actually being somewhat in some places called the Pride. It hasn't still been done on camera yet. So we'll go with Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits taking on the Final Testament. And there were a couple of interesting things in this matchup. This was a Philadelphia street fight. First, we would find out that Hall of Famer Snoop Dogg would be on commentary. And shout out there to Gin and Juice, which ended up being a sponsor of this event. We'll talk about the sponsorships in a little bit as well. Another Hall of Famer would be involved, as Bubba Ray Dudley would be the special guest referee for this match. Of course, you had the Final Testament making their entrance, and I automatically thought it was interesting that Scarlett was in wrestling gear. I didn't quite understand why until, of course, I saw when the Pride came out and B-Fab is in wrestling gear. So I'm like, at some point, these ladies are going to get it in at some particular point. Now, I want to ask you this, honey, because, let me ask you this without even leading to it. What were your thoughts on this match in the arena? How did it feel in the stadium?
It was wild. It was totally wild. I think every moment was wild. I think also, well, from what I saw in some seats, this was like the bathroom break for some people, and I'm not sure why. because I was really happy to see both of these teams actually face off on a grander stage as opposed to every week on SmackDown, you know, and in such a big way, with the Philadelphia street fight, and on, you know, it's a spectacle. The whole thing was, and I almost thought Final Testament was going to take it, but I you know, I could sit here and say I was disappointed or whatever it was, but I wasn't expecting Cross to take the pin, which I thought was very interesting. I really would have liked to have seen Final Testament come out on top of this, but it made sense according to how the weeks of SmackDown have been going. Because if you notice, Cross and AOP, they were looking very dominant, you know, every week. And it was like dogging them. They just kept beating them and everything. So it's like, it was kind of a surprise, but you know what? It's always nice to have another notch on your belt for a win at Mania, and they all looked great. I still don't agree with the name, but hey, here we are. I'm here for it, you know. And Bobby, the Street Profits, and even BFAB to have a WrestleMania moment which was very special, I'm sure, because like we've said a while back, Professor, half the time people always think that it's about being the main event at WrestleMania. It's about, when you're a superstar in WWE, the goal is to get to WrestleMania. So the fact that they even made it to the card, I mean, both teams did awesome. They took a hell of a beating, but I was thoroughly impressed with the street fight. I think I thought that they were gonna have it like in a cinematic setup, like maybe outside or something like that, like in the streets or something, which would have been kind of interesting, but I'll take what I can get. I'm not going to complain, especially when I was there. I'm not going to complain about nothing. Maybe one thing.
Oh, okay.
But that was from night one.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Night one. I wasn't really happy with Gunther losing, but hey, it is what it is. It is what it is.
I understand that for sure. De La, what were your thoughts on the Philadelphia street fight?
Honey, you said you don't know how this could have been the bathroom break match. Everything about this screamed the bathroom break match, especially from the second where Snoop came out for commentary. It's like, all right, cool, this is going to be fun. And then the second Bubba Ray Dudley's music hit, you knew it was going to get real gimmicky. You were going to get your Dudley Boys ECW callbacks, and that Cross and Company were going to just essentially get nerfed. And it felt flat watching it. And again, Bubba Ray was just a dead giveaway of, oh, this is not good for Cross and Company.
It did feel a little lackluster, and I felt the energy change a little bit. But for me personally, I was like, any opportunity to see the Street Profits go in the ring, because they put on such an amazing performance every time. You know, I would have liked a little bit more highlights here and there, like some. I don't know. I guess I just wanted something a little bit wilder, being that it was a street fight in Philly, in ECW town. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it needed violence.
Yeah, like I said, I'll take what I can get. So I'm not gonna complain. Like, being in that building, nobody should have any complaints.
Yeah. But yeah, being at home, I was like, ooh, this needs a little edge, a little bit of violence. And then like Cross gets in Bubba's face, and I'm like, oh, they're finna do the thing. And here comes the glasses. I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm checked out. Like, Snoop's commentary kept me interested, but has anybody had a worse run since Karrion Kross came back? And I've defended Kross to no ends, but this is one of those trips. You might want to just tell Kross to go shave his head and let's try this again.
Hey, Dazzle, your thoughts?
For me, it was a bit chaotic, and you know, like Della was saying, like it just felt very. You knew it was going to be gimmicky when you saw, you know, Snoop and Bubba Ray come out. There were a few highlights. There are some positives you can take from it. I mean, obviously, the Final Testament themselves. It's crazy to think that every single one of them were making their WrestleMania debut. That's including Paul Ellering, which is weird.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
in a sense.
Well,
that's what they said on commentary.
So I think we're gonna need some fact checking, and I hate to be that guy when it comes to WWE.
Go for it.
But I think we're gonna need to be some fact checking on a couple of things. for one, the Paul Ellering piece, his first appearance at a WrestleMania actually happened at WrestleMania 8.
Oh.
Now, the interesting thing, we have to define what they call an appearance. He was involved in an interview segment that was in the arena with the Legion of Doom as they were returning to WWE. Mean Gene Okerlund did the interview. It happened inside that arena. It is clear for everybody to see that was his first WrestleMania. Now, if you're talking about leading somebody to the ring and being involved in a match, that's slightly different. But if we're going to say our first appearance at a WrestleMania, we got to do better fact checking. Yes, sir.
Did they bill him actually as Paul Ellering and or acknowledge him as Paul Ellering at Mania 8?
Yes, they did.
Okay, then yeah.
Yes,
I was going to say, because I thought about that. I was like, didn't the Road Warriors have at least 1 or 2 Mania matches? Because, like, I know the bulk of the Road Warriors run was spent in NWA, Crockett, WCW, but I thought for sure they had something. I was like, maybe they just didn't have Ellering with them. But
yeah, well,
if that's the case, then
they had one Mania where they were with Sonny.
Yep.
When they were like
2000.
LOD 2000, but in 92 at WrestleMania 8, they were basically being introduced to WWE, and Paul Ellering was Paul Ellering. And this was an interview segment back when if you watch those old wrestling ones, they would do the interviews in the arena, like on a podium back by that's where the interview happened. So I think there's going to have to be some clarification on that. But yeah, I'm sorry. Back to you, Dazzle.
No. Fine. Facts are important. Trust me.
They are.
The other thing that we were saying, I think it was Honey that was saying about, some positives as well is, people just having a match on the WrestleMania card. And we've got to understand, like, B-Fab was on the card, and the likes of Liv Morgan, Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, so many other women that have been hot for the last, few months weren't on the card whatsoever. So for her to be there is a massive thing. Going back to the match, yes, it was very chaotic. Definitely not violent enough for a street fight. Definitely not violent enough for the way that the Final Testament have been, been presented. Not violent enough for the way that, Montez Ford and Bobby Lashley have been talking about what they want to do to Final Testament and all that kind of stuff. Great that they picked up the win. And as much as there was Bubba Ray, it made sense. We're in Philadelphia. It's ECW country. It made sense, but we just knew what was going to happen. And even away from the table botch, there were entertaining spots. But yeah, the Karrion Kross thing as well is a bit. It's disappointing. Karrion Kross is very good. And then the other thing that sticks in my mind as well is AOP were taken out by Montez Ford's amazing jump over the turnbuckle. We never saw them again. That doesn't seem like an AOP thing. If that was pretty deadly, I'd understand. But for AOP to kind of just then disappear for like 10 minutes was a bit weird for me. So the match, it's got its positives and its negatives. But the fact that they've come out on top as winners, hopefully, will give us something more for them to do. But I say that hopefully. I've been saying hopefully for like about 6 months. So
right. I will say, just even looking at this picture, them being dressed alike or having a similar theme, I think is a cool thing, because it's one of the few times that we've actually seen that. And of course, they get the win, which was really cool. I will say this match proved to me just how commentary can shape your opinion of a match.
True.
Because without the commentary, this looks like a wild match. With commentary, and this is not a knock to Snoop, it suddenly felt almost like the comedy match of the night. Snoop, take Snoop out of the equation, we have a much more serious situation on commentary. With Snoop in the situation, I just was like, whoa, wow.
I would have personally thought that because I know Devon was in town. He was over at the Busted Open Radio with Greca. which I was there for that as well, which was fun.
Sweet.
But seeing Bubba Ray come out as referee, I would have thought that instead of Snoop Dogg, Devon would have possibly done the commentary. I think it would have made it a little bit more of a formidable match, being that ECW legends are calling it, and it was a street fight, and it was related to Philadelphia. But you got, I mean, Snoop, Uncle Snoop, you know, Uncle Snoop.
Yeah, and as I think about it, that may have, it's interesting, the decision there may have been more connected to Gin and Juice sponsoring that particular match.
Yeah,
and that
sure.
might have come as part of that particular deal, which now's probably a good time to very briefly ask, what were your thoughts on all of the marketing, the signage, the branding that was happening at WrestleMania? It's the first year that it was ever this overt, where it was just boom everywhere, and you saw it. Some think this is a really good thing. Something it's a not so good thing. So I'll quickly ask, in a win, lose, or draw space, how did you feel about the branding that happened throughout WrestleMania?
I mean, branding is branding. You got to market you got to market your product, and you got to, you know, co-collaborate and, you know, and get those endorsements in, because how else, you know, you got to keep that money drawing. And everything, I as far as, I have no complaints with anything like that, because I don't know too much about it. So I try to like stay in my lane, number one. And number two, the only thing I will say is everything was, branding was cool with me, except for Prime. Get it out of here. Get it out of here. Rip that bottle. I'm glad it wasn't the red and blue, because it would have totally clashed and it would have ruined everything. Yep. But even still, get it out. Get it out.
For sure. Hey, Dazzle, what'd you think? Win, lose, or draw on this branding here?
To be honest, let's look at it really like it's not the only thing that was different about previous shows, or, you know, what they do on weekly TV, is the fact that the branding was on, you know, on the barricades and on the posts, and obviously you got that big massive Prime one right in the middle of the ring. Right. But almost with every segment and every section, there's like, you know, a sponsor from something or someone, and Michael Cole does his little thing before a match starts and all that kind of stuff. The only issue I'd have with the sponsors is it almost felt very I don't know how to say that, not racist, but kind of like very cultural. It was weird because the 6-woman tag with Jade, Naomi, and Bianca was sponsored by Wingstop. The match with Rey Mysterio was sponsored by, I think it was a Mexican
Agua
food.
Freshas. Yep.
Yeah, that. This
LA
one,
Knight, LA Knight and AJ was Slim Jim.
Slim Jim, but we know LA Knight to be with Slim Jim for the last year or so anyway, so that wasn't a surprise necessarily. But then that still has its kind of cultural references as well as at the same time. And then this one was sponsored by Gin and Juice. So for me, that was the only kind of like questionable part of it. Apart from that, I have no issue with any of it. To be honest, I'd almost rather the ring look a bit more like if they're gonna do it, go all the way and make it look like the UFC ring, where every corner's got some kind of sponsor or whatever else. And to me, it doesn't bother me in that respect. But with the placement of it, it was a bit questionable.
Dayla, you're over there shaking your head. What are your thoughts?
You saying make it look like UFC. I would like to direct your attention to Halloween Havoc in the mid-90s in WCW. Yeah, exactly. I don't need 4 corners plus a big logo in the middle of the ring. Plus, if I'm not mistaken, the turnbuckles as well. And it was Slim Jim usually. But the Prime bottle going into it, I was like, this is going to look horrible. But it didn't bother me. It was on the turnbuckles. It didn't bother me. The only thing that really, really bothered me as far as all the sponsorships and such is that you got to find a way to blend it in better. Because I think it was during the main event of night 1, the American Home Shield. I don't need a giant white barricade right behind Cody and Rock. And I'm just like, that distracts the eyes. That draws the eyes to it. It's just blend it in better. Blend it in. Go with the color scheme. Like the Dude Whites one wasn't really noticeable on the turn and post. Wingstop wasn't that noticeable. Some of them were just cool, but I understand companies have their logos, but you got to find a way to blend it because Prime was the least offensive of all the sponsorships, even the annoying hydration station.
Well, here's my counteract to that, and that is this: the idea of sponsorship is to be noticeable. If it's blending in such that it's not noticeable, then what did I just pay my money for?
But you're
right?
taking away from something.
No. The idea when I advertise somewhere, you've got to be able to notice that I'm there. If it blends in and if you go to a website and there's a banner there for whatever, and you don't notice that the banner is there, the whole point is lost. So I think it's an interesting thing because from a business perspective, these sponsorships are what allow for WrestleMania to be able to do a lot of the cool things and WWE to be able to do a lot of the cool things that they have been able to do. That doesn't just happen from ticket sales. It doesn't just happen from merch sales. These kinds of sponsorships allow WrestleMania to be bigger and better and all of those things. So now what's also interesting is different wrestling companies have done things differently. So New Japan has regularly had sponsorship that you see on their ring skirts, that you see, around their ring, actually on the canvas at times. AAA has done very similar kinds of things. Of course, the boxing world has done that all the time. WWE has been the one place that really hasn't done it. Part of that is because I think, there's been this idea of trying to be self-contained. But I think as you're trying to grow and gain more money, you realize these are the kinds of things that end up getting done. Now, to me, what I think is super interesting is they've learned how to incorporate these sponsorships, not to the detriment of the match. Case in point, Royal Rumble 2023, the Mountain Dew Lights Out match, right? Like we didn't get that kind of a match at WrestleMania this year. So I think they have found a bit of a way to make that work. Now, in terms of where they paired these sponsorships, the one thing I don't know, and having worked in other ends of this, when you offer sponsorship packages, you offer them at varying levels. And I don't know if the sponsors had the option to choose which match they'd like to sponsor. And if they looked and they said, hey, you know what? This audience might be paying more attention to this particular match. So let's go ahead and sponsor that kind of match. So I'm not sure, but before I start, kind of looking weird in conspiracy theory, I do feel like from a business perspective, you think to yourself, okay, where would be the placement where my target audience would pay the most attention? So yes, go ahead.
You mentioned that, and that actually is kind of more where I was getting at is, okay, you're right. Sponsorship is to be noticed. I'm not finna shell out X amount of dollars and it fully blend in, but do you want American Home Shield from WWE side? Do I want that white and red and blue logo where the bulk of the logo is white? Do I want that in the background of my main event of night one, my biggest main event?
I don't think they care. And here's why I don't think they care. Because we're still going to focus on The Rock and Roman and whoever else is in that ring. Our eyes will catch some of that other stuff. But I mean, those matches would go 20, 25, 30 minutes. At some point, the other stuff just becomes background,
Yeah, but look at the photos. Like, look at the one we have up perfect. You can you see the sponsorship. It works. It fits in. It's just that white out. This is from like a graphic design standpoint. Leaving all that white space calls the eye to it, at least for me.
Well, and we may differ on that, and that's okay. At the end of the day, definitely. WWE cashed that check.
I was going to say, the check cleared, so...
You know what I mean? The check cleared, and that's what counts. So, all right, we are going to move on.
It don't make
sorry,
dollars.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, if it don't make sense, it don't make dollars.
There it is. Yep. There it is. So moving on to the next match. Speaking of sponsorship, this was sponsored by Slim Jim. LA Knight versus AJ Styles. This one, the lead up to it was crazy. I mean, these guys got physical everywhere. LA Knight showed up at AJ Styles' house. Literally, Honey was there when these two started scrapping at WWE World. That's where I first found out. She sent the video, and I was just like, what is this? But yeah, I first want to ask the question about AJ Styles introducing a new theme song. Is this the right place to introduce a new theme song at WrestleMania? Dazzle, you're shaking your head already.
It's not the wrong place. It's a very good place. It's just the wrong music. I mean, compared to the last one.
Okay.
He already made mention, I think, on social media that he was going to do something new because he kind of, he felt as though his old one didn't fit his persona now. And I don't know whether this one does anything different necessarily. In terms of just my own music taste, I guess it doesn't do much for me. I just prefer the older one. But to introduce something new at WrestleMania is not an issue at all. I would have rather the Pride introduce something new in their WrestleMania match, or a new theme song maybe, or whatever else. That would have probably worked for them. So yeah, it's not the wrong space, just the wrong choice of song, maybe.
Honey, what did you think?
I think with theme songs changing, it takes some getting used to. And it has to be one that hits and one that could resonate with you, because music, it has to do that in order for you to understand it, in order for you to feel something for it. Being that AJ Styles has come back in this kind of way, and in a way that we've really never seen him before, I think it's quite fitting, only because this is not the phenomenal one, AJ Styles. This is the gritty one, I would call him. Like, he's not here to play games. And he's also, I give him a lot of props, because I think he's in the era of putting people over, knowing that he's a little bit close to the end. He openly admitted that he's got some gas left in the tank, and we know this man could still go for a while, but he is getting up there. I don't like to put ageism on anybody, but when they say it and it comes from their mouth, they're really serious about it. And, being away on the road 365 days out of the year, practically all the time, and away from the family, being the dad that he is and that we know he is, and the husband, the family that he's developed and created, he's probably feeling like it's about time, so maybe we'll just end it on a good note where we make some changes. This is a different me. This is an upper echelon kind of AJ Styles. And we've seen this man evolve and grow in so many different ways and become something that I'm sure, being that, from where he started and impacted TNA, like, we knew he was going to get to this point at one point. We knew that he was gonna be destined for greatness in WWE, and he's accomplished so much. So I think it's very brave and bold of him to change it up, being that the song was so damn catchy. It's a great song. His old song was a great song, and we'll all love it. But that's why we got Apple Music and streaming platforms and Spotify. And just keep streaming it on repeat, because Lord knows that I will. And but I also love to see him upgrade himself, if you will. This is more, I would say this is more of a first ballot Hall of Famer in a couple years, or in a few years, kind of AJ Styles. Like this is his version of his own final boss. And I think that that's happening for a lot of superstars. And he's one of the many that's very deserving of doing that.
Absolutely. Dayla, let me ask you this question. What were your thoughts on the match between AJ Styles and LA Knight?
I enjoyed it, and I feel like if you didn't have the Philadelphia street fight, this probably would have got a no holds barred type stipulation, given the fact that LA Knight pulled up to the man's house and handed him a fade in the front yard. And then they got into it at WWE World. Like, this felt like, hey, we got to put some kind of stakes behind this, because they've been scrapping on site everywhere. But it was a good match. It was a solid match. I don't think it was the best match that we probably could have got out these two. I think they're not done with each other, so maybe we get another one. But for LA Knight's first Mania match, and for Styles where he is, Styles still reminding, hey, I might be Buff Diesel now, but I can still go and put on a banger.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. And as far as the music, it works. This is Styles' first match since Rumble, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe a couple little TV matches. But like, since he's fully embraced this character, which is just what he pulled this toward the ends of his TNA run, this lone wolf. I don't care. I'm angry at the world. I want it all. I like it. It works. It'll take some time to grow, but I like it. And I kind of need part 2 of this in Paris.
I agree with you, Dale. I would not mind seeing this match again. I will also say the build-up, this was kind of a situation where the build-up kind of almost, I wouldn't say it did, but I would say it almost overshadowed the match.
Mm-hmm.
But with the anticipation of all the build-up, and especially what happened in Media Day, because there was like a few people in front of me, and I was like this with my phone. I'm like,
wow.
I just couldn't believe it was happening. None of us knew if it was a work or shoot or work shoot, whatever you have. But that moment alone made the anticipation greater for the match. So no matter what, people were going to tune in and make sure that they sat in their seats to watch it. And LA Knight, between Woo, Yeet, and Yeah, it was everywhere in that stadium. Everywhere. Yeah. I think I heard Yeah a lot more than I heard Yeet in some cases. And so kudos to LA Knight for having that kind of impact on the people, because he's very deserving of his flowers, and he's come a long way to get to this point, and he made it, and he won his first WrestleMania. So shout outs to him and AJ. We know that he would always put on a banger match. Any match that AJ Styles is involved in is always going to be a banger because he is that phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Shout out to Special Little Nobodies. Great to see you with us for sure. We're going to move to the next occurrence here, which was the triple threat match for the United States Championship, as Logan Paul battled Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. Of course, we get this very intriguing intro there from Logan Paul, who literally knows how to make an entrance in this match. And then, of course, we had how kind of Kevin Owens to be just lend his golf cart to Randy Orton, and they drive down together. At moments, it felt more like a handicap match than a triple threat match. Of course, Logan Paul wins this match. What were your thoughts on this match and the result of this?
I am so glad that Logan Paul is in WWE. I love the fact that he's come out on top on this one. With all the championship matches that were happening over the 2 nights, I thought it would only be Rhea and Gunther that would retain. It almost felt certain Logan Paul was going to lose. It's Randy Orton, it's Kevin Owens. They've been gunning for him for how many weeks and months. But to see Logan Paul come out on top, and even done in the way that it was as well, was like, to me, perfect. Like this guy is to me, this guy's the future. Like we when we first saw like Austin Theory, and we were talking about him being great, and other people have kind of come through and whatnot. But this guy's got it. This guy's got it. That's it.
I see Honey warming up. I'm gonna let her keep warming up because this is about to be good. I know it. I know it. De La, what did you think, man, of this match and this result?
I love the match, and like I knew going in, I was like, Logan Paul's probably going to win this because SummerSlam is in Cleveland. Yes, that's another 4 months away, but Logan Paul works a semi-part-time, not quite full-time schedule, so it's like cool. He might do Paris, he'll probably do Saudi, maybe Money in the Bank. So it's like he doesn't have to defend the belt that many more times. My favorite bit in this match came at the start where Logan shoved KO into Randy, trying to create that dissension, and Randy was like, "Hey man, he pushed me," and they stopped. They looked at each other, and was like, "Yeah, that's right," and went right to beating Logan Paul. I was like,
right,
that is smart. That is greatness. That is great storytelling. That is subtle little things where it's like, "Oh, you hit me inadvertently. I know he pushed you. Now let's fight." No, I think it was great, and he stole it. Like it's the only way Logan Paul can win this match. Randy does all the work. I'm going to throw you out my way, Randy. I'm going to throw a frog splash just for, good measure. 1, 2, 3, let me get out of here. And also shout out to Logan Paul's boy Speed, because Randy put that food dead in that man's chest.
Sure did. Sure
Wow.
did.
Not the bottle cap off of him. And old boy tweeted later that night, and he was like, not gonna lie, wrestling is real, guys.
Real. Wow.
Yeah, he was a brave one for getting in Randy Orton's face and like cussing at him. And Randy Orton was like, okay, all right, sir.
You barked at the man.
All right. So I'm just gonna sit back and let Honey have her say, because I just feel like she's coming with a torch. Honey, your thoughts on this match and its result?
I knew he was gonna win, which would probably surprise you, but I knew he was gonna win because Randy and Kevin don't have really much to prove. They're legends in their own right, and it was all to make Logan Paul look good. Am I happy with the result? Absolutely not. But I will tell you this, I was screaming a lot of profound things from where I was sitting at this man. And I was screaming about the Prime. I was just like, get that ish out of here. Get that logo out of here. F him up. You effed up. I was just screaming all kinds of things. And a lot of people, which I appreciate, like when you're in a good crowd and in a good section, everybody was with the vibes. Like everybody I was seated with was with the vibes, and they were like chanting along with me in some cases, which was quite fun. But yeah, I guess we can say that Logan Paul does belong here, but I'm not happy about it being another part-timer. I do, however, see him dropping this in SummerSlam. This is not going to be a long-lasting reign.
Okay.
Hometown heroes usually don't win unless you're Trick Williams. Yeah. Either way, nonetheless, screw Logan Paul.
That's it. That's it.
My opinions on him will never change. I will do everything in my power to continue to hate this man and try to hate this man until he gives me a real reason to like him. But I respect it. And if I was training with Shawn Michaels as much as he is, I would look like that too.
Wow.
I may actually give you a reason to like him. There's a video floating around of him watching the main event.
Yes, I watched that earlier.
And his reaction to the main event was the first time where I went, oh, wow. Okay. All right. I might find a place for you, Logan. But I agree with what everyone said. I mean, he definitely felt like he was going to win this, and he has a strong future in the business. I mean, he can't be denied. This is his third WrestleMania match, if my memory serves me correctly.
Yes.
The Miz. Then when he
then last year he had Seth, and now this one. So
to go over on AJ Styles and Kevin Owens is saying more than enough. So I get it. But
it's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. We'll continue with the card with a match that a lot of people here at Women's Wrestling Talk, particularly in our chat, have been fired up about for months. I can see Cindy, or wherever she is, talking about how this match didn't get enough play, and Boza talking about how this match didn't get enough, in all of the things. Well, here we are. This match was kind of in the main event spot, as it was right before the main event. Io Sky and Bayley, and we get this very regal entrance from Bayley. She did let us know a couple of days before on the socials that as much as she tried, Paramore could not make it, and they couldn't get Paramore to do the entrance that she want. But it looked like they made up for it with a pretty solid entrance coming in this way. Of course, Io Sky joined in as well. A big night for Damage Control. I want to get your thoughts on this match, Bayley versus Io Sky, with all of the talk in terms of where it should have been. People talked about it should have main evented night one or one of these nights because she won the Royal Rumble. Here's the question. Did the match live up to main event billing? And I say that because last year's Women's Royal Rumble winner being Rhea Ripley, many people were saying her and Charlotte should have main evented after watching that match. You know, we've talked before about other matches that should have main evented a WrestleMania night. Given all the people that talked about this match and talked about Bayley winning the Royal Rumble, after seeing the match, do you think this should have been a main event match?
I think Triple H was doing everything he could to get the right people on the card and formulate it in the right order. Was it right to do it in the co-main event? Absolutely, because it is technically the women's main event, if you want to put it like that. You know what I'm saying? It might not have had the same effect with Rhea Ripley and Charlotte, but that's because there was so much power behind them. And they have so much power as far as superstardom and larger than life characters. With Io, Sky, and Bayley, it was more so about this was my teammate and she betrayed me. It was more so about the story and the drama of it all. And a lot would say that Io Sky's reign was definitely a little overshadowed, which I believe it was, because she wasn't really defending as often, you know, and you know, being the genius of the Sky that she was, I would have much rather have liked to see her have a run the similar way she did in NXT, because that was just absolutely chef's kiss. Mm-hmm. But the X factor in all of this was Bayley. Bayley was the X factor in the whole match, no matter what. I think no matter what, we all knew that Bayley was going to win, regardless if she won the Royal Rumble or not. She was going to get an opportunity somehow. But you needed to put a lid on Damage Control and wrap it up with them. And it was done in a very good way, because, you know, it's usually I didn't see the betrayal coming, whereas Bayley did see the betrayal coming, because she understands her language, and she was like, I know what you said, I know what you've done, and now I'm gonna mess you up. And she did. And Bayley, not for nothing, I thought she was gonna pull out a hugger moment, like a hugger Bayley moment, which probably would have made the kids go crazy. But Bayley looked phenomenal. She looked strong. She looked dominant. She doesn't have to do much to look that way. Her in-ring skill says it all. And to finish up with the Macho Man elbow, I really love that for her, because that's just classic. You know what I mean? You can't go wrong with the Macho Man elbow. But Io Sky, for what it was worth, I guess we could say it was an okay run. And I think that's where a lot of people are having the trouble with Bayley winning, only because Io's run wasn't as dominant. Like, it wasn't on the level of a Rhea Ripley, or it wasn't on the level of Lesnar. I mean, you know, Brock Lesnar at the time, when he was actually not a part-timer, you know, like the early years. But kudos to Io Sky for holding it as long as she did, and you know, carrying the role in Damage Control, and playing her part, because at the end of the day, it was all about the respect that they wanted to give Bayley. And Bayley definitely deserved a crowning moment at WrestleMania. She is now the final horsewoman to have that crowning moment. And well done. Well done by Bayley.
De La.
So here's my thing. When you look at a main event, I factor in three things. Does the story justify the main event? Does the star power justify the main event? And does the combination of story and star power justify a main event? The story definitely justified the main event. I don't believe the star power did, and it's more so a reflection of Io. And it's not a knock on her, because she's played her role. It's been based around the faction. So it's like, we know who Io is, but it's like, does she carry that weight and cachet? Like, you be giving her the spot off of the strength and the back of Bayley's name, which is fair. And then the other thing is, what are my other options for a main event? Roman, Cody, night 2. That's been in lock forever. The tag match, kind of hard to top that. Like, and then you have the world title match, both world titles for the women and the men's. So it's like, unfortunately, I think any other year prior to these past 2 years, this probably gets a main event spot like it deserves. But unfortunately, it was victimized by the Bloodline saga. So this is probably the best spot you could put it if you didn't put it in the opening spot. So, it is what it is. As far as the match goes, I loved it. Josie Judas showed out, put on a banger. I think that let everybody know that, if we haven't really seen her wrestle before, she can wrestle. She is a star. The way she countered the Rose Plant the first time,
right,
where she hit a handstand out of that, I was like, I didn't think you could do that. And also, Bailey's finna lose.
Right.
So great match, great placement. It was a coming out party for Io as much as it was a crowning moment for Bailey. As far as Sky's title run, I didn't have a problem with it. Honey, you brought up like it wasn't a dominant run. Look at all the champions on the rosters. Gunther's been dominant. Judgment Day has been pseudo dominant enough. The Usos before them. Look at Roman. Like you can't have all these dominant runs, and I feel like she had a very strong run by herself. It's just you also had a crew running with you, and she wasn't the focal point of the crew. The crew was always, hey, we are more deadly together as a collective than we are individually. It just so happens that our girl holds the belt, and she can also put hands on you by herself, as she proved, because she had some good matches in that run. So I don't hate the run. I give it a strong B. Solid run. Definitely, I could see her getting another shot with the ball and going on another run with it later down the road. So yeah, loved it. Now let's just see what Bailey does. Do we continue this or do we move on to something else?
And that's a good setup for you, A-Dazzle, because as we see Bailey, of course, winning this match in the championship, what do you think is next? And perhaps who could be next for Bailey? Is she fully done with damage control? Who is next for the new WWE Women's Champion?
Let me just speak on the point of Io's title run before I move to that question. I think the unfortunate issue was, again, as everyone's already said, she was part of a trio. And I think the problem was there was already kind of this tension between her and Bailey before she even became the champion. So the second she cashed in and became champion, everyone was literally just waiting for Bailey to turn on her. We didn't necessarily expect it to be the other way around. It made sense when it happened. And I think in that space of time, because there was so much kind of focus on what Bailey's going to do to her, or them too, there was no space to kind of fit any other woman in for it to become like a more entertaining run or a more solid run or however you want to put it. And I think that's probably where it kind of went wrong a little bit. The match was phenomenal. Both ladies can go. Io's proven that before. We just haven't seen it a lot lately, I guess. So maybe we forgot. But she definitely showed us yesterday. What happens with Bailey next? Io's gonna come back for her. Or Dakota might come for her in the near future. In terms of anyone else, there are so many ladies on SmackDown now. That could, but I don't know how they make it happen necessarily. I can't think of anyone that comes to the top of my head apart from the ladies that are part of Damage Control at the moment. Not sure who else there is. Nah,
I got one.
Go on.
Miss Pretty in Pink.
Oh, most definitely.
It's there.
But I think that would be that would kind of be like a stepping stone type of feud, not necessarily she could win. She might.
It's a heat check feud for Tiffany, but
yeah,
it's there.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
I think Tiffany shows up perhaps if she wins that Queen of the Ring in May. Her winning that as Queen of the Ring could set up a good thing, perhaps at SummerSlam for her and or Money in the Bank, either one. Yeah, Tiffany either wins King of the Ring or Queen of the Ring or Money in the Bank. I'm not sure which would be more effective, but I could see that happening down the road.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention this, but I know for sure that Tiffany Stratton has her eyes on Money in the Bank. I know that I could confirm that for sure. I won't say how just yet. But
I'm sure we'll see that in the not too distant future. For sure. Let's see. Some of the folks in the chat have their ideas. Jason says Bianca. Don the Visionary says Tiffany, Dakota, or Naomi are some good candidates for EO. Those are all possibilities for sure. Of course, that all leads us into the actual main event, which no one had any questions about. And that is, of course, the main event for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. Roman Reigns defends against Cody Rhodes under Bloodline rules, which we would at some point discover is just pretty much anything goes. A very strong entrance from both parties. Cody Rhodes makes his way in. We didn't get it, but of course, at the top of the stage, there was our first Brandy sighting of WrestleMania, and that was telling, I think. Then, of course, our champion Roman Reigns, accompanied by the newly minted Hall of Famer Paul Heyman. A lot happened in this match. A lot, including Mr. No Yeet, Jimmy Uso showing up. He gets met by Mr. Yeet, Jey Uso. They have this insane spear off of the WrestleMania stage through a table. Then at one point we see a callback to WrestleMania 39 with it almost ending in the same way. Solo Sikoa, as Cody Rhodes went for the third of those crossroads, he gets met by Solo with this Samoan spike. That wasn't enough. Then we would hear the music of the Invisible One, John Cena, who came to get a bit of lick back on both Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. And it seemed like all was right in the world until the final boss shows up. And I just need to say this. Yes, it's been 10, almost 11 years since the last time these two met in the ring. It is scary to me to see how much better The Rock looks today than than John Cena. It's almost frightening, actually, to see how much better. But they have there it is. We have this face-off here, and from there, The Rock catches John Cena with the rock bottom, and it seems like, again, all is right in the world. We hear more music as the music of the Shield pops up, and then everybody's wondering, now, wait just a minute. We know good and well we are not seeing the full Shield. No way, no how, no chance. Like, this can't be happening. And then in pops Seth Rollins in his Shield gear, but he gets met quickly by Roman Reigns, who gets a bit of retribution from Seth Rollins turning on him years ago with a chair shot, and Roman gets his bit of lick back. This match had so much. And then the final boss thought he was good until the gong rang. The Undertaker showed up. People went crazy. He catches the final boss with a choke slam, and before the night's over, we've got a new WWE champion in Cody Rhodes. There's a lot to unpack with all that happened in this match. Dazzle, let me get to you first, man. What were some of your feelings watching this match, and how did you feel when the 3 count happened for Cody Rhodes?
So in the build-up to all of this, and of course from the scene that we saw when The Rock beat down Cody Rhodes outside in the rain on the episode of Raw, and we had Chuck with John Cena and Stone Cold at the back, Everyone started this is going to be an overbooked match. Cena's going to come down. Stone Cold's going to come down. Everyone's going to come down. Dustin Rhodes might even show up. MJF might even show up. Ricky Starks is gonna do something. Like, there were so many things that people were kind of predicting and whatever else. So we kind of had this idea that we knew that there's going to be a lot of interferences or appearances and whatnot. But yet at the same time, they happen, and you're like, oh my God, this is happening. Like, we didn't know.
Right.
But that's the beauty of wrestling sometimes. That's the beauty of pro wrestling sometimes. It was phenomenal. I mean, we expected the Bloodline, Sikoa and Jimmy to show up. Jay was obviously going to then, put in an appearance. That little spot onto the table off the ramp was very unexpected, which made it perfect. I think for me, my favorite moment was when The Rock came down. Not just because of the moment, but because the man was in flares and made it look good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
No one else but The Rock can do that in this day and age. Probably Seth Rollins as well, but that's it. That was phenomenal. And then, of course, when Roman Reigns hit Seth with that Superman punch, just ended his night there and then. And then, obviously, we then make reference to the whole betrayal of Seth with the Shield and Roman and all that kind of stuff. There were so many little details in all of these kind of reappearances and all of that as well. Seth said to Cody Rhodes about a month ago, I'll be your shield. Makes sense. I'm the only person that knows Roman's weakness, which is the whole trauma of the Shield breakup. That eventually led to, Roman kind of getting a little bit distracted and Cody Rhodes coming back, getting the 1, 2, 3. The feeling when that happened was, I am so glad this story is over, because the speculation, not in a negative sense, but the speculation of, is it going to end? Is it going to carry on? Blah, blah, blah. It's done. I'm so glad it's done. I'm glad Cody's got the belt now. Amazing to even see. It still could have gone either way. Even during the match, you were like, this could still go either way. And you can make sense of it. You can make logic of it. You can carry on a story in some way or whatever else. It was brilliant. The beautiful part was just in general at the start, at the end of the match, was seeing Brandy. I've been waiting to see that woman make her face known back in WWE for a while, obviously since they left AEW way back. Cody's handed his mom the belt, the whole family are in there. And I think the reason why I connect with Cody so much is because we're both cry babies. Like, we'll cry at the smallest thing. So when Cody was in the ring and he handed his mom the belt, I was like, yeah, all of that. Thankfully, I was the only person here watching WrestleMania, so I didn't feel embarrassed. But it was amazing. Obviously, then everyone else has come in the ring, congratulated him, all of that. It was just phenomenal. I'm not a fan of overbooked matches, but all of that made sense. All of it made sense.
Yeah. Don the Visionary says The Undertaker was a twist for sure. I went mental when that happened. So happy Cody has finally finished the story. Eric, good to see you. Oh, happy day. Congrats to Cody. Thank you, Roman, and best Mania ever. So let's ask you, honey, your thoughts on this match. You were obviously in the arena. We know your feelings toward the tribal chief. What are your thoughts, and what did it feel like when the 3 count happened?
I could still feel it. I could still feel it. I could still feel everything that happened. I could still hear every single person around me screaming their heads off. I could still feel my heart ready to jump out my throat. I just didn't know what to make of the situation going into this match. Oh my God. So when the entrances were hitting, that's when it slapped me in the face. And I'm like, yo, this is really happening. This is it. This is it. And like Adrian said, Dazzle said, you didn't know anymore.
Yeah.
You didn't know anymore, because the entrances for both men were so grand and so well thought out and put together. like, let's just go into that for a bit, because that's one thing I always look forward to in WrestleMania is entrances. How are you going to make me feel going into this match?
Mm-hmm.
Cody. The minute I saw Brandy, like, I was just like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Like, wow, we're here. And the way he came out, the gear he had on, like, he's always worn beyond robes, like this one last night. He just looks absolutely regal. He looks absolutely babyface Homelander. Like, this man is our, and this man is our hero. This man is the guy that's going to carry us. This man is our American hero. This guy is our wrestling hero. He's everything. And Triple H said it in the press conference. Cody's not that guy because he was manufactured that way. Cody is that guy because he's just that guy. He was made to be exactly where he is right now. And I know Dusty is prouder beyond belief, because listen, the mask, first of all, the details in that mask and the tribute and homage to Triple H was fantastic. You had the skull with that and the American Nightmare wings. Like, I was just like, you know what? At that point, when I saw that entrance and he looked straight at that ring before the lights went out and his music started, I said, you know what? I'm not even going to be mad if you win. I'm not even mad if you win. I don't know how it'll happen. I don't know if it will happen, because I had so much faith in my tribal chief. But Cody made a believer out of me last night. And it's not because I never liked Cody. It's not that I never respected Cody. I just thought that somehow this was going to be another thing, another obstacle for him to come to overcome. Then I saw the tribal chief's entrance, and I saw the choir, the band, the orchestra. The greatness in itself in the entrance was just so dramatic, and it was just like it was like Rocky and Rocky and Apollo. Like, it was very much just cinematic to a T. Paul Heyman selling it the way he does, and Roman. Roman looked absolutely. Oh my God. Like, I don't even have the word for it. He looks phenomenal. And my husband's probably like, girl, bye. But
no, he looked incredible.
No denying that this man, even in the face of leukemia and you know, staring at that in the face every night and taking his medicine and still looking that way, I don't think we'll ever see anybody do that. The way he's done that. So I give, even though he lost, I give the tribal chief all the credit for being able to strike himself up as to being so legendary that he is undeniably a first ballot Hall of Famer. Undeniably. And I wouldn't even be surprised if it was in upcoming years, if he's still on the roster. I wouldn't even put it past him. But the entrances alone, once I saw these entrances, I was like, well, I don't know who the hell's going to win this. I don't know what the hell's going to happen. I don't know a damn thing. And it goes to show the mind of Triple H and him being the cerebral assassin that he is. He is now the cerebral booker. And it's not even funny. It's not even funny. The Paul Levesque era definitely showed its colors last night and the night before, but especially last night, because you start with your wife and you end with two of probably one of the best things to ever happen in this business, period. And Roman looked so strong. Cody looked so strong. It was just back and forth. It was just nonstop anticipation. It was just nonstop excitement. It was just nonstop cheering and screaming. But then Solo comes out. The boys came out. Jay and Jimmy came out. That spear was phenomenal. I was actually very happy. I had caught that just in time on camera right when Jay was landing it, because the content I'm going to be putting out is going to be insane.
Yes.
Insane. And you know, I didn't even bother filming that when Jay came out, because I already had it from the first night, and everybody was still like, it's just so good. It's just so good. And then Jimmy, like, just seeing them wild out on each other was just awesome. And what a great spot for that to happen. Like off the ramp, it was just so dramatic and so compelling. Then Solo comes in, throws a monkey wrench in the whole program, and I was like, this is where the shenanigans begin. And I was ready to just let it happen. At this point, I put my hands up and I said, I'm gonna let go and let God handle this. Because I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Like, it's just is what it is. And this is why we watch wrestling. And this is why we feel so connected to it. And this is what professional wrestling looks and feels like. For those of you who like to use the F word very loosely, wrestling is very much real. And if you don't believe it, I suggest you watch this main event, because there was nothing realer than the reaction of Cena. The pop, the constant pop on top of pop on top of pop on top of pop. It was just so overwhelming. Like you know, it was just remarkable, and it was just like so classic, instant classic. And with and then on top of that, Cena comes out. He gives the attitude adjustment not only to Roman but to Solo on the other table. So not only one table got messed up like usual,
right?
All the tables got messed up. Everybody's getting some. It don't matter. Corey Graves, look out. Pat, move your ass. Michael, stand back. That's it. And then the final boss came out. The final boss, I was screaming my head off so much in every video. If you guys watch my videos on my socials, you guys are gonna laugh your tushes off, because I was just a maniac. Like, I was screaming when that man came out. Not only was I screaming because it was The Rock, but it was also my third time in the week seeing this man. And this was my first experience feeling The Rock's aura, and that that man can do no wrong in my eyes. I don't care what anybody says. Dwayne The Rock Johnson is the truth. Y'all are gonna stop playing with him and put some respect on his name, because not for nothing, if we did get Roman and Rock, either way it would have been fine. And I understand now why the Cody crybabies were upset. No offense, Adazo, I love you. But I understand why they were upset. It's because not that they didn't want the match. They just didn't want it with the belt. And rightfully so, because it's unnecessary. Unnecessary. All you need is their name. You know, and I know I'm going on a tangent, but I have to get through every step, because it was just constant chaos. Yeah, it was just chaos on top of chaos. And The Rock came in looking good, looking solid. He's like, geez. And then the face-off. We got the John Cena face-off after 10 years, like 10 years ago. Like, it was just like, you know, if I had a wig, that was getting pulled back, okay? Yeah. That thing was getting pulled back. And that was so awesome. Then the Shield music hit. The Shield music hit. And that pop was like, whoa! Like, it was like, you got, and I'm screaming my head off in that video too. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me. I'm gonna pass out. I literally was saying in the video, I'm about to pass out. Because all we needed, if Triple H really wanted to open that door, he would have. If TK was up for the business. But I was waiting. I was personally waiting for that Shield music to transition into Wild Thing, and that place would have just gone ballistic. Absolutely ballistic, but it didn't. I love seeing Seth in Shield gear. It's so so homegrown, and it's so comfort. It's like good comfort food. You know, like you never get tired of it. This is your favorite meal of the day, and you can eat it every day if you want to. Then the storytelling and the details and everything, the fact that Cena got one up on Roman as well as Solo for the loss in Saudi Arabia, and then the storytelling with the minute Seth showed up, Roman's focus was no longer on Cody, and that was his big mistake.
Exactly that.
That was his biggest mistake, and it goes to show you that PTSD is a mother. Because Roman has even openly said, I will never forgive you. I will never forgive you for doing this. You broke our brotherhood. You broke my heart. And that showed that it stuck with Roman. And the minute you looked at Seth, it was over. And I was like, oh my God, he's going to lose. In my head, I'm saying it. In my head, I'm saying it. In my mouth, I couldn't say it yet. Because I was just like, not until I hear that 3 count.
Right.
Not until I hear that 3 count. And he hit him with the chair and he fell to the ground. And I was just like, this is just completely poetic. I love also the fact that it was the same spot where Sammy hit Roman back. Like it was that direction. The other direction was the original Shield betrayal. So I really loved that minor detail. Seth got knocked out and the final boss got back in there, takes off his belt, and I'm like, here we go. And everybody around me in my section was anticipating glass breaking. Everybody. Because I don't know if you guys know this, Triple H had posted something yesterday, and he said tonight is going to be one of the a WrestleMania to remember. Just wait for it, and I hope you're ready. But he posted it at 3:16 p.m. He was playing with us, and that's why he's the booker. So well done, because we were all on edge, even waiting for the event to start. We were like, did you see what Triple H posted earlier? Did you see what we were all talking about it? There was all talk about Stone Cold.
Brilliant.
Nobody was anticipating that gong. Nobody. And I literally I had the camera ready because I'm like, here we go. Austin's coming. Here we go. And before I could say here we go one more time, the gong made everybody pause, and then it just it was just like, I could not believe it. And then he's in the ring. At that point while filming, and I apologize for everybody in their ears ahead of time, and even the people that were sitting at the event, like I kept telling everybody, hi, my name is Honey, and I like to scream a lot, so I'm sorry for what you hear. Like I just kept saying that every match, and everybody was just loving it. But we haven't seen Undertaker and Rock face off since 98?
99.
99? Yeah, 99, and it's 2024. Who would have guessed that? Nobody. But then again, it made so much more sense for it to be The Rock, and for it to be Taker and not Austin. And here's why. The Rock is talking final boss this, final boss that, but who runs this yard? Who is the original final boss for everyone in this business? If you didn't get the nod from Taker, you're not getting anywhere near this business. So technically, Taker said, hold my beer, final boss.
Yeah.
He forgot about the big dog who runs the yard. And he certainly proved that. What a choke slam. Rock was such a great sell when he turned around and he saw him there. And I was just like, just whatever. And at that moment, when Taker came out, I was like, Cody's winning. That's when I knew it. Because who's going to be upset? Who's going to be upset at any of that? And I know there was a lot of tribal chief fans up in the building. There was a lot of ones going up. A lot of tribal chief shirts, honorary ooses, everything. But who was going to really be upset at Roman's loss when The Undertaker was the one to put a nail in the coffin, quite literally? And then Cody hits the cutter. Well, not the cutter, the crossroads 3 times. And that last final struggle, he's getting up and I'm like, yeah, this is it. This is it. So when that ref hit the mat on 3, I can't even describe to you the sound of the people. It was beautiful. It was quite beautiful to hear because I heard the relief in everybody. I heard the relief saying it's finally over. It's finally done. The story's finished. We did it. We're here. This is the beginning of a new book. And it was so phenomenal and so well done. And at that moment, especially when Mama Rhodes got the title, I officially became a Cody crybaby. I cried my eyes.
Wow.
My eyes out, and I was beyond elated and very happy for Cody Rhodes and his family. And the ending was very WrestleMania 10. Very WrestleMania 10 when Brett won the title, facing Owen Hart earlier in the night, and then beating Yokozuna in the same night. It was just such a good scene with all the baby faces: LA Knight, Randy Orton, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, and getting the handshake from Seth Rollins saying, I told you I would protect you. I would be your shield. I told you I got you. It's your time. Take your moment. And boy, it was soaked in. It was soaked in. I was in a complete state of shock because I was just like, wow, he really did it. And he made a believer out of me. But with all that being said, in that long tangent, and I apologize because we are way over time, but I needed to get it out of my system. I really, honestly could not wait to talk to y'all today. I could not. Whether I have no voice or whether I have some voice, I'm getting on this damn show with my friends. I'm going to discuss this because I have PTSD, but in the best way ever. It's the best hangover I have ever had.
Yes.
and just magical, absolutely magical. And then when he called out Bruce Pritchard afterwards. Called out Triple H to the ring. Seeing Triple H and him hug really hit me hard, considering both of their histories, especially when he was in AEW and all that smack talk and smashing the throne. And I'm like, now this is a full circle moment. And I really hope the people of the world that even are just casual wrestling fans or whether they don't watch it all, please watch this. Please watch this. It will make a believer out of you. And this is honestly, I'm going to be the first to say it. And this is bold. We are now looking at the greatest story ever told.
Wow.
We are now looking at the greatest story ever told. This totally trumps every other story I've ever seen in my life. And to be in that building was something else. It was just something. I was just very proud. I was very proud to be a wrestling fan. I'm still proud to be a wrestling fan.
It's going to literally take us probably at least the rest of this week to unpack everything we saw from this WrestleMania, because there are still several other real major points that we can look at in terms of, how the show ended, in terms of the intentional effort to acknowledge a brand new era. So many things, which, you guys will be able to check out in some of our other shows like WWT Live and some other things that we'll be doing this week. Make sure you're looking out for the content that we'll be sharing, because I know there's some special footage that our team was able to get, plus a lot of interviews that happened. Honey was involved, TK was involved, a number of other people, really chronicling all that happened in the WWT experience of WrestleMania and Mania week. Wow, this was fantastic. Let's figure out how people can reach out to us, as of course there's still the crazy Raw after Mania, which I am super pumped for, along with everything else that will happen this week. Dazzle, how can the people find you?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram, Black Wrestling Alliance. You can also find me and Gerard Bonner and Mex on Wrestle Extra, which happens tomorrow at 6 BST. You can work out your own time zones because it's too long for me.
Yes. And Honey, oh my gosh, it was just, well, I'll get to that in a second. How can people find you?
You can find me back here, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays with the crew. You can find me with the Honey Pop Predictions. They will be back. You can also find me on Fridays here at WWT Live for a SmackDown watch along. No, it didn't happen last week because, you know, girl was busy. Your girl was up in Philly doing some things.
Yes.
And you could find me on Instagram and TikTok, Wrestling with Honey, Facebook, Wrestling W Honey, and like and subscribe to YouTube. That will be up and running very, very soon. The Wrestling with Honey podcast. I want to give a couple of personal shout outs. I want to give a shout out to you guys. I want to give a shout out to the boss lady TK for welcoming me into this family. I really don't have the words, but you guys, I don't think you guys really understand what this weekend has done for me and what you guys have done for me bringing me into this family. So I really, really love and appreciate you guys deep, and I cherish this for more than you guys can understand. I want to shout out you, Professor. You are beyond the energy. It was so great to finally meet in person. It was so great to go visit All Caribbean Wrestling, which shout out to them for putting on quite the numbers to get the weekend started. I was just elated to be in the building and to be a part of something a lot bigger than myself. And I just, this weekend was a completely total whirlwind of an experience. The 5-year-old little girl in me that was on her dad's shoulder screaming, "We want Brett" at her first event, really felt this one. Really felt this one. I had some moments with myself personally. I also want to give a shout out to my family, who was very supportive. I want to give a shout out to my husband. And I want to give a shout out to all my wrestling community, my boys at Sparks, Mark Analyst, Kyle from Knockouts and 3 Counts podcast was in the building with us. Shout out to Evan T. Mack and Heidi. Shout out to Emily May Heller. Shout out to Bill After Sports Key to Wrestling. Like, it was just a pleasure. I know I'm missing a few names, but everybody that I met and everybody that I was introduced to, I really have love for y'all deep, and we just met, but it is what it is, and this is what wrestling does. So I just had to say that.
No, thank you. Thank you for saying that. This has been a very emotional few days, and I don't think people understand. You know, when we talk about wrestling being real, the things that we feel are very real. What pro wrestling does for us is very real. So well, first of all, business out of the way, you can reach me at Bonafide in all the spaces and places and see all the things, right? What I was gonna say though was I was so happy to finally meet you in person, honey, to meet TK in person finally. Prior to this part of my life, A Dazzle knew kind of the other part of my life, and I'm very accustomed to working with people online and then finally meeting them in person. And sometimes they are as advertised and sometimes they are not. But you guys are. And, you know, it was such a special time. I don't think people understand, you know, what it means to be able to do anything in this business, whatever it is, media, podcasting, commentary, whatever, to have the opportunity to contribute something to this incredible business is amazing. And I will tell you that while I was sitting in the airport getting ready to head home, I just started kind of reflecting on all of the things that happened, and I got very emotional, and I was concerned, like, okay, I hope people don't think somebody died, because like I'm like losing it. But it's just, you know,
I feel that.
So many things happened this week, and at some point some of you might get to know, but this is a very real business. It's a very real emotion. These are very real things that happen to and for us. And so I'm grateful to be part of this community. I am grateful that we get to do what we do, and even to get the platform to talk about what happened at night 2 and to talk about all the things that we get to talk about. It's very, very, very special. And I will stop before I get even more emotional. So with that said, all things women's wrestling talk, WWTalkPod is the social media space to find us, wwtalkpod.com. is the website. All sorts of content will be on there from Mania Week. I know there were a ton of interviews that happened, a lot of footage from all sorts of places, plus some exclusive things that you'll see from those of us who attended. So all of that is coming. Be on the lookout for that. WWT Live, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, along with all of the other shows that we have here on Women's Wrestling Talk. Thank you to everybody who joined us. Don and Eric and Matt and Joseph and Barry and Matt and Cool Gamer and everyone else in all of the spaces. I don't know how long these things are supposed to go, but it went as long as it was supposed to go. And we're going to get out of here before this gets longer than WrestleMania Night 2, because we don't want that. So representing for TK and all of the people, this has been Women's Wrestling Talk, the WrestleMania Night 2 post show. It's part of WWT Live, Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling network on the planet.
Thanks for joining WWT. Don't forget to like us on all social media platforms at WWTalkpod. Like and subscribe on all video and audio platforms, like yesterday, my G. And check out our website at www.talkpod.com. Thanks for watching Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling network on the planet.